you want to look at it. But what we do there is just bring industry experts and people with extended experience in Web3 and to basically just share their opinions on different topics. And I believe this Wednesday we had an aquarium running for a little over 4 hours, and we were just chatting about Chat GPT and AI and the implications in Web3. And I believe we've had over 25 or 30 people speak up, and a lot of interesting points were brought up there. And I believe Noah's going to put up a follow-up panel for it for next week, which is going to be amazing. But yeah, that's just something we're putting out there every Wednesday, 4 p.m. UTC. So set your calendars. Make sure you follow the aquarium account as well, or well, simply if you're following Well Coin Talk, you'll see us announce everything in due time. So that's basically what we've been doing for about, well, more than a year and a half now. We're going to celebrate our 2-year mark shortly in 2023. But yeah, it's an exciting time. You know, we've had a lot of people come on, a lot of people still come on, a lot of people still building, a lot of people still excited about the space. I know maybe 2023 hasn't been very kind to a lot of us crypto folk, but we've seen the builders. They're still here. They're still doing their thing. They're still putting out cool DeFi products for us. They're still, you know, engaging with everyone in a very good way. And as as we found out, it's a lot easier to get to the root of the problems and talk to like really renowned people and developers and everything during a bear market, right? It's easier to see who's been around and trying to educate and improve the space, and who was simply here for a quick buck, right? But we're excited. We're excited for what's to come. You know, Web3 is just in its infancy, so a lot of a lot of leeway there. A lot of people building different solutions. A lot of people exploring different options. So it's still a very much exciting place. And don't let the whole debacle of FTX bring you down and all of this. For some of us that have been around for a few cycles now, the cycles never end in a very fun way for people. You know, it happened a long while ago with MT Gox, and then you know, with I don't want to bring up old news and all of this, but just stay optimistic. You know, keep building, keep learning, and you'll see the value in it. And yeah, I think well, a lot of us see it still. We're still here. We're still talking about it. We're still trying to bring more people on board. Try to teach them about the values of crypto and just taking control of basically your money, your life, your decisions, and all the good stuff like that. But we'll see. We'll see what the future brings. Maybe 2023 will be the kickstart of the next bull run. Maybe we'll have to wait till 2024, 2025. We don't know, but we'll be here when it comes. So stick around. You know, enjoy the show, and most importantly, join the conversation. Right? We're active on basically all channels. Right? We're on Twitter here. We're on Telegram, we're on YouTube, we're putting out a lot of interesting material everywhere, and yeah, we're verified all over. So just look for Whale Coin Talk, and you'll see us do our thing. And hopefully you'll join the ride with us, learn a few interesting things, and become better DeFi users, crypto users, Web3 users, or uh, whatever your field is. I always tell people try to apply your skills to the Web3 world. See if there's a small niche where you can fit in, and you'll see you'll do well in the next 5 to 10 years at least. So that's just my small takeaway. I'll pass it back to you, Noah. I see I've been rambling here for a few minutes, so we already have some speakers up. So I'll pass it back to Noah. I have the stream up and running as well, guys. We record these and we put them on our YouTube channel. I know, Twitter only saves the recording for about 30 days, I believe, but we'll post the links in our main chat and everywhere for people to listen back to afterwards.
Yeah, fantastic fantastic intro, Acti, and we have Justin Havens here. Justin, welcome. We're so happy to have you.
Yeah, hello everyone. Justin Havens here from the Polygon DeFi team, also known as Crypto Texan on Twitter.
Right on. So, good afternoon, Whalecoin Talk community. My name is Noah, and today we are diving into the Polygon ecosystem. Justin, again, thank you so much for being with us today. And before we get started, give us a quick background of your career path and how you found yourself working in the crypto industry.
Yeah, so I'm a traditional finance person by trade, my history. So I worked as a commercial lender, a commercial banker for about 13 years. Um, and I got into the crypto space, I guess you could say, around 2017. 2017 is when I bought my first little bit of Bitcoin on Coinbase, and I bought the top, and the price crashed. But then I was just kind of like, what was it about this technology that got everyone so interested and created all this hype. And so I really started like 2018, 2019. I really just started taking a lot of time, still working in my traditional finance job, just digging into the tech, like trying to understand like how everything works. And it was just like really enlightening and really exciting to me. And then once the time of DeFi summer came around and you started to see projects like uh, Haven and Ethland, which are now synthetics, and Aave. And I was looking at these projects that are built on the blockchain, these DeFi protocols. And I was like, wow, these are banks that operate purely on autonomous code, and there's no employees here. I mean, there are people and developers who monitor and keep up to date the open source code, and I kind of saw that first as like, okay, well, I think I need to, personally, I was like, I think I should invest in this as like a hedge against my current profession, right? Because like as working at a bank, and I'm seeing these banks that just operate 24/7 no matter what. And so I started digging in, how does Aave work? How does synthetics work? How does Cream Finance work? And I came across this project. Well, I was trying to manage all these positions, and I was thinking to myself, wow, it would be really awesome if there was a way, like an index, like an on-chain crypto index, where I could just purchase that index token and then it could manage my positions on my own. And I found that it was called the DeFi Pulse Index. And so, I did some research on it because you should always do your own research. And I ended up buying the DeFi Pulse Index token. And that is a basket of tokens that automatically rebalances based on the autonomous code. And that was created and maintained by the Index Coop DAO. And so I started getting involved with the Index Coop. I was still working my full time job and then working at the Index Coop part time. And that was kind of my first start of actually working in Web3. And then, through my work with the Index Coop, I started to, working closely with the Polygon team because we were trying to get our Index Coop products onto the Polygon blockchain. And not that, we needed permission to do that, but it's just always good to kind of like just start building those relationships. And eventually, Polygon asked me if I wanted to start working full time in Web3. Hamza Khan, the head of DeFi there, asked me that. And I said yes. And yeah, I've been working at Polygon for about 7, 8 months now, full time. Been in the space since 2017, full time for about 7 months. Just really, really happy. So that's a little bit of my background and how I got to where I am today.
Right on. Thank you for the breakdown, Justin. What are some things that the DeFi team at Polygon is currently working on?
Yeah, and there is like a misconception out there sometimes that like the Polygon DeFi team like actually builds DeFi projects and DeFi protocols, and that's not necessarily the case. So what we do is we work. It's mainly focused on like a business development type aspect where we're looking for teams who are building very cool, innovative, long-term, sustainable, decentralized finance products that are transparent, open source, all the great things that you love about Web3. And then we want those to be built on Polygon because our goal at the Polygon DeFi team is to grow and maintain a robust DeFi ecosystem that focuses on collaboration and composability with those DeFi teams. So if we see a successful DeFi project on another blockchain, we will definitely reach out to them and say, hey, we think y'all would be a great fit on our blockchain as well. We have a lot of users that could really use the services that your protocol provides. And so we work on onboarding existing projects from other chains, existing projects from Ethereum as well. And then we also, there's a lot of projects who are looking for their first home. They're developing the code on for an EVM compatible blockchain, and they're trying to figure out which one's going to work best for them. And we'll talk to them, and if it's a great fit, great, and then we'll do it. But and if it's not, it's not, and that's what we're looking for as well too. And so another thing that we do is I mentioned composability earlier, and that is one of the most important things in Web3, right? You have like a borrowing and lending protocol like Aave, which is on Polygon, but you can also build projects on top of that, like Aavegotchi is an NFT based DeFi protocol. It's like GameFi, right? And that's built on top of the Aave protocol. You also have Good Ghosting, which is a DeFi project built on top of the Aave protocol and pulled together. And all of these are built on top of Aave, on top of Polygon. And we want to continue to foster that type of collaboration and innovation within the space. And so we also help from a marketing standpoint. You could have the the most efficient and innovative technology in the entire world. But if no one knows about it, they're not going to use it. And so, in that sense, it could be useless. So, when we do have projects that deploy on the Polygon blockchain, we also want to amplify that and let users and other developers as well know what is being developed on the Polygon blockchain and what's making our DeFi ecosystem so much different than the other ones that are out there today.
Man, I had no idea that you could actually build on top of Aave. I'm a big Aave fan, but that's the first time I'm hearing this. Justin, really quick, just to follow up on that. So now that we understand what exactly you guys are doing at the DeFi team, or what exactly the DeFi team is doing, what are some of the what are some of your favorite DeFi projects that you guys have onboarded to Polygon during your time and during your 8 months being with the company?
That's a really good question. Maybe not just specifically the ones that we've onboarded during my time, but I do just want to talk about specific projects in general that are on the Polygon DeFi ecosystem. Well, first of all, we've got like all your major blue chips, right? Like Curve is on there, Balancer is on there, Aave, Uniswap V2, Uniswap V3, and a bunch of other ones. But the ones that are really exciting to me are the ones that are like a lot more Polygon native, or what we're starting to call Polygon originals, like Netflix originals. We're calling them Polygon original DeFi projects. And one of those is ChiDAO, which is one that's really I'll just pick like two or three real quick. ChiDAO is one that's really interesting to me. They're similar to MakerDAO in the sense that they have their own stablecoin that is over collateralized with crypto assets, digital assets. And so they have a stablecoin called MAI, and the team over there is it's really amazing. They're actually on 15 different EVM compatible blockchains, I believe, but Polygon is their home, and they have this like voter escrow voting system as well, where you can share in the revenues of the protocol, and the longer you stake, the more governance power you have as well. I love the team, and I love what they're doing, and I use ChiDAO, and I use the My stablecoin. So of course I would say that's, and none of this is financial advice. I'm not telling you to go out and use any of these projects. I'm just picking on some of the ones that I really like. Another OG is QuickSwap. QuickSwap has been on Polygon for a long time. They are a Uniswap fork, but they also have, similar to how Uniswap has their version 3 of concentrated liquidity, QuickSwap has their own version of concentrated liquidity as well. That's really fascinating, and I think that's something that people might want to start looking into as well. And one of the more interesting ones for me is Time swap. I think that's one that people might want to start paying attention to. It's similar to Uniswap in the fact that Uniswap does permissionless, token to token swaps without the use of an oracle, right? So Uniswap doesn't rely on an oracle. TimeSwap does that similarly from a borrowing and lending standpoint. So you can borrow and lend without the use of an oracle, and I think that is pretty interesting too. There's also OVIX is a great one. Stater Labs that does tokenized liquid staking is another great one. I could go on and on because I'm obviously in this space all the time, but I'll leave it right there with those few projects.
Yeah, those are certainly some good ones to dive into. And as Justin mentioned, and as we always mention on every broadcast here, nothing on Whale Coin Talk is meant to be taken as financial advice. It's all education, informative content. But Justin, with that said, let's dive in. If you could give us a high-level overview of what the Polygon network is. I mean, I think we all understand to a certain degree, but maybe explain from a nuts and bolts perspective, and also tell us what it means when you say your mission is to bring the world to Ethereum.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the best. It's one of the best ways to describe it. When it comes down to it, Polygon and everyone who works at Polygon, we're ETH maxis when it comes down to it. We want to bring the next 1 billion users to Web3. And this is my belief, and I think my belief also like resonates throughout the organization as a whole as well. But if we're going to onboard the next 1 billion users to Web3, I believe that Ethereum is our best chance to provide that type of open and permissionless financial infrastructure for the entire world to promote more freedom and financial inclusion for the entire world. And if we want to onboard the next 1 billion users, I believe Ethereum is our best chance to do that. The one thing with Ethereum, though, is that Ethereum does not scale. It is expensive, but that is by design. It is expensive because it's the one of the most, I'm not going to say the most because I don't like using number one, number two, number three type language, but it is one of the most, if not the most secure blockchain out there, especially from like a smart contract standpoint. And that I believe that Ethereum will be the global settlement layer for the future of digital finance and digital assets. And because it doesn't scale, that's when layer twos come into the picture, where layer twos can sacrifice a little bit of security and they can also be a little bit faster. And you have this modular blockchain theory where all these layer twos settle their transactions on the Ethereum blockchain. And so what Polygon does is we create scaling infrastructure for Ethereum to scale to that next 1 billion users. So we have 7 different scaling solutions that are either live right now in public testnet, in beta, or are in development. And so we kind of go from a pretty broad approach on making that happen.
Right on. And Justin, I'm aware that Polygon is technically a side chain, and I was wondering if you could share some insight into what the primary differences are between a side chain and a layer 2, or technically a layer 2 scaling solution, such as Arbitrum, such as Optimism, and such as Metis.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And like I said earlier, Polygon creates. We've got a suite of different scaling solutions for Ethereum. So I think what you're talking about specifically is one of our scaling solutions, which is the Polygon proof of stake chain. And so if you're interacting with any of the projects that I talked about earlier in the DeFi ecosystem, or you're using OpenSea, you're using the Polygon proof of stake. And that is just one of our 7 scaling solutions that we have to help scale Ethereum. But the difference between like a side chain and like a separate blockchain or a layer two is like a side chain it is like a separate blockchain that is connected to the main chain, allowing for the transfer of assets between the two chains, right? And it helps scale the main blockchain, in this case Ethereum, such as, it provides additional capabilities such as the ability to process transactions more quickly or to use different consensus mechanisms. And a layer two scaling solution, on the other hand, refers to like a protocol or technology that is really built on top of the blockchain as opposed to a side to it, to increase transaction throughput. And you can do that through various different ways, through optimistic or zero knowledge. But I think, and we're talking about side chains, and I want to get a little bit more technical here too, because the Polygon proof of stake chain is an EVM compatible commit, what's called a commit chain, meaning that Polygon proof of stake, that scaling solution, commits what's called like the Merkle root of all of the blocks produced on the Polygon proof of stake chain onto Ethereum. So that's how Polygon proof of stake can offer like high throughput. Is well, it offers, helps to offer low transaction fees, provides users with more affordable access to DeFi or just decentralized apps in general, while maintaining like similar standards of security. So being a commit chain, Polygon proof of stake can have like a very unique, it has a very unique architecture that enables it to inherit some of the aspects of Ethereum's security. And so basically, you do have these transactions that are happening on the proof of stake chain, but as opposed to other chains, Polygon's uh, validators are not on the proof of stake blockchain. Polygon's validators set is on the Ethereum blockchain. And so that also furthers aligns us with the Ethereum ecosystem as a whole.
And Justin, diving into that, what are the steps and requirements to setting up a Polygon validator? So how much Matic do we need? Is there a cap on how many folks can be validators? What are the software and hardware requirements? Give us some more insight into that, please.
Yeah, I can help provide a little bit onto that. Basically, there is a hard cap right now on the validator set at 100. There has been talk about expanding that into the future, and I believe that will happen. But I think, the Polygon proof of stake chain as it sits right now is not necessarily that's not the end goal for us. I mean, we've got a huge focus on zero knowledge or ZK EVMs and ZK proofs. We have a huge investment in that, and we have our zero knowledge or ZK EVM public testnet that's live already, and will probably go live sometime next year. Can't really say when. So but yeah, I mean, and how much I'm actually not familiar with how much Matic needs to be staked to become a validator. And the software, the requirements are pretty minimal, and that's typically the case with a lot of proof of stake blockchains. I do know that the Polygon. I mean, I can get into a little bit more detail about like the architecture, if that works.
Yeah, I'd love that. That'd be
okay.
Great.
So essentially, like, here's how the Polygon proof of stake chain works. So, it's a pretty elaborate architecture that works in sync. All of it just works in sync together to achieve like this high throughput with minimum fees, right? Because that's what everybody wants. So Polygon staking contracts, like I said, are deployed on the Ethereum blockchain, but the proof of stake chain's architecture really consists of like two chains, okay, which is Heimdall and Bohr. Okay. And those two work in tandem to enable these fast transactions and low fees. So with Heimdall, the proof of stake chain consists of, it has this active set of validators, which we just talked about. The Heimdall selects the block producer committee, which are the validators that are selected to produce blocks on Bohr, which we'll get into in a second. And Heimdall also acts as a coordination layer between the staking contracts on Ethereum and the validators on Polygon. So Heimdall basically relays inputs from Ethereum to facilitate the block producer selection progress on Bohr. And it relays that information about the set of active Polygon validators from the staking smart contracts on Ethereum to the Polygon proof of stake chain. Heimdall, it also regularly uploads those checkpoints that we were talking about, which is the Merkle root of all blocks produced on the Polygon proof of stake chain onto Ethereum. So this enables anyone on the Ethereum network to check or I guess check or query for correctness. Okay, so that's Heimdall, and then with Bohr, the EVM it also this is the EVM compatible chain that produces blocks on Polygon, the Polygon proof of stake chain. I mean that's what it is. So Bohr is a Geth implementation with some customizations, and consensus on Bohr is really inspired by the proof of authority consensus and enables Bohr to achieve high block speed with fast consensus. And since Bohr is EVM compatible, developers can seamlessly redeploy Ethereum based dApps or decentralized apps on Polygon proof of stake with minimal code changes. So, like when I was talking earlier about what we do on the Polygon DeFi team, when we are talking to teams who are building or have built on a EVM compatible chain like Binance Smart Chain, Avalanche, Arbitrum, Optimism, it's very very easy for them to just take the code that they've already written and implemented and then deploy it on Polygon with very minimum changes. And that is something that we focus on for all of our scaling solutions, is to have this EVM compatibility or EVM equivalence to make things easier and simpler for developers, since that is today the most popular, I guess, architecture for creating your DeFi apps.
And do you think it'll remain the most popular architecture? I mean, if I had to bet, I'd say yeah, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think there's definitely that concept called the Lindy effect, where technology just becomes so widely adopted that it's pretty difficult to to change, even if it's like a more efficient or more you know uh, type of coding language. I think me personally, in general, I think it's great to have more and more innovation in this space, because I think the most important thing to focus on is like, why are we all here? And I think a lot of us come here first just to like make a bunch of money because we saw a number go up on the news and our friends made some money, trading shit coins. But if you really stick around, and I think the people who stick around in these bear markets, like I did in 2018, and like a lot of us are right now, you really start to dig in and you see major collapses like Celsius, Voyager, FTX, and then you see projects like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Aave, Compound, Uniswap. They're all running just fine. Nothing happened, and that's the point. You know, we're building a global financial system that is for everyone, and it's transparent and it's open. And if we can implement different types of coding languages to make that even better, then I definitely welcome it. I think right now, Solidity and the EVM model is definitely the most popular. I could foresee a future where, you know, just like we have Ethereum as the base layer, the global financial settlement layer for the future of digital finance, you can create a layer two scaling solution that does not operate with EVM compatibility, right? It's got like Starkware's doing that with Cairo. And so you can still settle back to the EVM model, which I think will be the future, but you could build like a Rust based coding language that's a layer two scaling solution and use those types of features. And so will it be the most popular? It's hard to say. but I definitely personally welcome, all the innovations.
You stated a couple times that Polygon is working on 7 scaling solutions. And while I don't know if we have time to go through all 7, I think that there are some that are a bit more interesting than others, at least from my perspective. And one you've already mentioned is Polygon's ZK EVM, which is also known as Hermes, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Would you give us some insight into that and also describe some real world use cases and problems that it's going to solve?
Well, first thing I'll just say, I think that zero knowledge proof technology is going to be not just like from a scaling perspective, but it's going to be something that's really going to take like the crypto space to a place that we never could have imagined. Okay, like the concept of, and this, I'm getting a little off topic here, but the concept of zero knowledge technology and zero knowledge proofs in cryptography has been around for a long time. I think this has been around since the 80s, right? And for a long time, cryptographers and people in the crypto space have been wanting to try to implement this, and Zcash was like one of the first ones to do it. And shout out to Zuko and the ECC and Zcash; they're amazing. I love that team. Um, but it was very different. It was very difficult to do because at the time, until very recently, until this year, the way that you verified transactions on the blockchain using zero knowledge proof technology was incredibly computationally intensive, and it was very, very difficult to do from a cost effective perspective, right? Until recently. And I'm not a developer. I can't really get into all the details as to why, but um, there was a major breakthrough, and you're seeing it because you've got ZK Scroll, you've got Starkware, you've got Polygon ZK EVM. We also have Polygon Maiden, which is a Stark based ZK rollup, which is a slightly different type of ZK technology, and we also have Polygon Zero, which uses Plonky 2, but I think we also did some implementations on the Hermes ZK EVM with Plonky 2 as well. But regardless, basically what it does is it batches transactions from the layer 2 to the Ethereum blockchain. And there's the way that you do that, there's 2 main ways to do it, right? There's optimistic rollups like Arbitrum and Optimism, and then there's like zero knowledge proof rollups, which is what Polygon Hermes is. With optimistic rollups, what you do is you just assume all transactions are valid until someone someone submits a fraud proof which says, hey, this actually is not a valid transaction. And that's why when you're on Optimism or Arbitrum, you have like this 7-day waiting period to withdraw your funds, because you have to wait for that fraud proof, I guess, timeline to expire so that they can be submitted back to the main chain. So on those optimistic rollups, it's like you're assuming the transaction is true while waiting for someone to say that it's not. On the ZK side, what you're doing is once the transaction happens, it's proven to be true. And so there's no assumptions there. And that does take a lot more resources computationally, or at least it did historically. And now we've gotten to a point where it's not. And so it's a lot more efficient in that sense that you don't have to wait for that 7th-day withdrawal period to withdraw your funds from Arbitrum or Optimism. And you can also use ZK EVMs from like a privacy standpoint, or not ZK EVMs, but like zero knowledge technology from a privacy standpoint as well. And there's 100 of different types of applications that can be used here, and it's very, very exciting. So yeah, that's basically what it is. It's just it's a scaling solution for Ethereum that batches transaction from the layer 2 back to mainnet using zero knowledge technology, which is super fast and efficient.
So, Justin, I mean, Vitalik Buterin has also argued that ZK rollups will end up winning over optimistic, and it seems like you certainly agree. I read into your collaboration with Mina Protocol and there being a bridge between the 2 ecosystems. Are you versed on that at all, or are you able to shed any insight into what that would mean for both networks?
So I know that there was a bridge developed. I'm not exactly sure who developed the bridge, so to speak. They're a privacy protocol. Is that correct?
Yeah, and they're basically utilizing ZK technology. They're utilizing ZK snarks and ZK rollups as well. So I'd read that there is a partnership between, or a collaboration at the very least, between Mina and Polygon, and I was just curious to know if that was something you knew about. But basically, from what I understand, they're working towards implementing support for Mina on Polygon POS, and the bridge is going to enable developers to build applications on Polygon while also leveraging privacy and verifiability via Mina's zero-knowledge Stark-based protocol. So that's kind of like the gist of it, and I wasn't sure if this was something that you were able to share insight on.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of insight on that specifically, but I think when it comes down to it, we are very open to collaborating with anyone and everyone because I think it just goes back to, why are we all here? We're here to build a new financial infrastructure that is inclusive to all. And if we can work with other teams and projects to help make that a reality, we're absolutely willing to do that.
Beautiful. So really quick, Justin, I wanted to ask, and let me know if you don't know much about, or if you're not too involved with the partnership, but I wanted to ask about a few partnerships, if that's something that is okay with you.
Sure, yeah, let's go for it.
So what is the significance of Polygon being one of the 6 companies selected to join the 2022 Disney Accelerator?
Yeah, and first of all, I don't think I would call that a partnership necessarily, but it is a program that we joined with Disney. And I believe Disney has this accelerator program every year, and it's just, innovating on new technologies and new technological implementations. And if anything, it just kind of shows like how forward thinking the Disney company is as opposed to, other companies in other industries. And this was the very first time a blockchain or Web3 type company was ever selected for this type of accelerator program, and they picked Polygon, and I think that speaks volumes. I think that we've done a really good job of hiring a lot of the right people from a marketing standpoint, a business development standpoint, but most importantly, on the technological development standpoint, right? Like with Polygon Maiden and Polygon Zero and Polygon Hermes, ZK EVM, those were ZK projects that were standing on their own before we rolled them up under the Polygon brand. And what you have now is Polygon Maiden, who was specializing in Stark based rollups, and Polygon Hermes, who was focusing on ZK EVM, and Polygon Zero, who was focusing on Plonky 2. Now you've got these 3 teams that have their own specialty in the ZK space collaborating together. And I think that stands out to a lot of, Web 2 projects, Web 3 projects. And I think that us getting accepted into that accelerator program, just I think it speaks volumes to the whole team working together. Personally,
What about Polygon's partnership with, and sorry, if I use the word partnership incorrectly, collaboration, relationship,
mm-hmm.
but what about Polygon's partnership with Klima DAO? I believe that they're trying to help achieve carbon neutrality. How's that going to work?
Yeah, and that's a great question. Yeah, I mean we can call that a partnership. There are some things I've got to be careful on how I say them, and this is not one of them. Yeah, I think so. Polygon definitely has like a go green initiative or a carbon negative initiative that we've been working on because you know, kind of what I've been saying. Like if we spend all this time and effort and long hours building these new secure and robust financial infrastructure with ZK technology and onboarding all these DeFi projects and NFT projects, like if the world isn't there for us to enjoy that in the future, then what has this all been for, right? And whether you believe in like the global warming or et cetera, what matters is like what matters is another point is it's like there are a lot of people and organizations who do care about it, and so we do have this long plan, and KlimaDAO is helping with that, on becoming carbon negative. And it's like, how do you become carbon negative? Like one way is like you could plant trees, and that like not only does that offset your CO2 emissions, but it also like helps to rebuild the ecosystem. Oh, sorry, someone rang my doorbell. 1 second.
No worries. And yeah, I mean, I think Justin made a great point. At the end of the day, if you, whether or not you believe in global warming,
yeah, sorry about that.
Go ahead.
My
Justin.
dog started barking, and I had to tell her to shut up. Okay, so yeah, and so we're partnering with KlimaDAO. It's like so they have this way of like tokenizing carbon credits. I think is what they're doing, and I haven't dug too deep down into it, but they are helping us in that regard on helping to offset. But then, we're also developing campaigns to help a lot of our ecosystem partners to participate in something like this as well. And it is a big focus for us. And yeah, I mean, going carbon negative and kind of what I was saying earlier, it is important because yeah, if we build all this cool stuff and then the world isn't here for us to, or our grandchildren or our great grandchildren, like what is all this stuff that we've been doing even worth if we can't pass it on to our future generations?
And they couldn't agree more. And Justin, I wanted to ask about your collaboration, if you will, with Stripe. I believe that Stripe is utilizing Polygon to make global payouts they're basically utilizing Polygon for global payouts. How's that working, and how far along the process into that integration are you guys?
Yeah, I think this is just another great example of how great our business development team is. I know that Stripe was like, I mean, they're basically expanding their global payments and treasury network using Polygon, and so they're initially going to support payouts in USDC, which everyone knows is a stablecoin pegged to the US dollar. And it's going to enable many people who wouldn't otherwise be able to hold dollars to do so. And yeah, these payouts are going to take place over the Polygon network, which is exciting. They, per their, per what they have said, is they chose Polygon because of its security, its low fees, its speed, its alignment with Ethereum, and we also have very broad wallet compatibility. With obviously like MetaMask, Coinbase, Rainbow, but we also work very closely with a lot of other wallet providers to make that available. And so this is also really big for creators as well, because like once creators like can receive their earnings, they can hold that balance on Polygon, or they can choose to bridge it to Ethereum, or they can exchange it with another currency with Stripe. And yeah, I think Stripe does plan to add support for additional rails and additional payouts in currencies over time. But this is just part of our grand vision, right? There are a lot of people in a lot of countries who they don't necessarily have a stable base currency that they're using. Inflation is like pretty high in the US right now, but it's also like not as bad as other places in the world. And there are a lot of people who would love to get their hands on US dollars or a US dollar equivalent like USDC. And Stripe is helping to do that through the Polygon network. So I still think that there's like some KYC requirements that happen there, but that's what you have to deal with when you're working in um, the web 2 space. So yeah, we're really excited about it, and I think there's probably a lot more to come on that horizon from a payments standpoint as well.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to actually take a few steps back, and we were talking about ZK rollups and ZK tech, and according to your documentation, 2,000 transactions will be processed in a single batch on layer 2, equating to one transaction containing the proof sent to the Ethereum layer 1 block. And so I'm getting somewhere with this, and I'd love to hear your insight because you seem to be somewhat of a ZK maxi. So in my opinion, this further solidifies the idea that Ethereum will eventually just become a chain of proofs, and transactions are going to occur on highly efficient layer 2 rollups, such as Polygon's ZK EVM. So, with that said, do you, or let me rephrase the question. With that said, what do you think this means for the future of layer 1s like Solana, Avalanche, Phantom, Cadena, just to name a few?
That's a great question. I think it's hard to say. I definitely have my thesis on how things will play out, but I'm also always open. I think it's very important to keep an open mind, right? I think when you're dealing with new technologies and new chains, I think it's important to have a base layer principle foundation that you stick to while willing to make slight changes over time as new technologies evolve. And I say that because, what do I think about Solana or other layer one blockchains? The answer is I don't know. I think I think that they have, I am a huge fan with the way that the Ethereum community solves problems and has dialogue within the community on how to build better and how to reach more and how to maintain the same principles that brought us here in the first place. And it's very much like a security first aspect, right? Like sacrificing the security of the network is a non-starter in the Ethereum community. And I can't really say for certain what if that is the same thing in other communities, but even if it's not, I think that's okay, in the sense that as long as they are here for the same reasons that got us here in the first place, I think that's important. And that is, creating that ecosystem, that environment of fully transparent, inclusive financial infrastructure for the entire world. If it's like a VC chain or like a private blockchain that is only used by certain people, that doesn't really resonate with me. Not that any of those that you mentioned before are that, but I can't really think of examples of, you know what I'm like vehemently against. But I you know we all have different ways of trying to achieve that, and as long as we're trying to achieve that ultimate goal of not having to rely on centralized intermediaries, and we can take control of our own financial freedom, that's the most important thing for me.
It's such a great answer, and I'm glad I backtracked to ask the question. I actually skipped over it. I'm like, no, I gotta ask him this because this is a good one. Um, Justin, so circling back now to collaborations, partnerships, if you will, can you give us some more insight into the work that Polygon is doing with Starbucks and Reddit?
So with Reddit, that was just like really that was just something that I didn't know about it, and I it just kind of hit me when I found out about it. Was these Reddit digital collectibles, and I think, you know I think that there's like a really good story there into how popular these quote unquote digital collectibles were they're essentially NFTs, right? They're non-fungible tokens. Not essentially, that's what they are. They're NFTs. And NFT can mean a lot of different things, but the word NFT has kind of gotten a bad rap from a lot of people. Not really sure why. I think the bull market probably had something to do with it. A lot of scams, et cetera, et cetera. But also, like, when you call something an NFT, people don't really understand what that is necessarily. But if you rebrand and just call it something that people can actually understand, like a digital collectible, it makes a lot more sense to people. And I think that is like the biggest lesson that we could all learn from this Reddit NFT uh, thing that happened on Polygon was that like they are really popular. Like it is like the most traded NFT on Polygon, I'm pretty sure. And it onboarded a lot of new users into the Web3 ecosystem and onto Polygon just by calling it a digital collectible. And that's something that that for whatever reason that's something that's a lot more easier for people to conceptualize, right? And I think that was really exciting. I hope more stuff comes out of Reddit on that. So those kind of my thoughts there. And then on the Starbucks Odyssey thing, yeah, they're doing their, I think it's like their rewards program for their users. I'm actually not like totally in tune on that, but I think, when you're just in general, when you're talking about all these Web 2 enterprise companies who are dipping their toe into the Web 3 space, I think it's it's pretty cool that if you kind of look around and see who they're choosing to do that with. Um, and that just kind of goes out to our business development team, our marketing team, and everyone that's on the tech side that might be helping them implement those projects. And we don't build out infrastructure. We won't write a smart contract for anybody, but we are there to provide you the tools that can help you scale to your clients. And yeah, I just think it's really exciting. You're naming all these names, and it just makes me really, really proud to work for Polygon.
It's the Reddit example is a walking, breathing example of why language is so important, right? The majority of the Reddit community, if I recall correctly, gave so much hate towards NFTs, had so much hate towards NFTs, and just changing the name to digital collectibles. A lot of them don't even know they're interfacing with NFTs, but it popped off. I think people should look into the Reddit use case and kind of how they, or rather, what point of departure they used to make NFTs so popular. Justin, I wanted to let a couple community members ask questions. They're typically coming up with very, very high level questions, oftentimes better than the ones I come up with. So I'm going to open up the floor if that's okay with you.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm excited.
Cool. Aisha, you're first.
Thank you, Noah, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much. So, moving to my first question, I've read in an article that sharding is a multi phase upgrade to improve Ethereum scalability and capacity. So, I was wondering, what does it mean for Polygon when sharding upgrade is implemented by Ethereum to improve their scalability, as their upgrade has become more of a focus since Ethereum moved to proof of stake?
Yeah, thank you, Aisha. And I love that question. And my answer to that, and I've gotten this question quite a few times before, and I love answering it because kind of what I said uh, earlier, and that we're talking about Ethereum base layer scaling improvements, and I think that layer two scaling solutions are providing a huge benefit to Ethereum right now and to its users, in the sense that the transaction fees on layer twos are a lot less expensive because the gas fees as the transactions are batched to layer one, like those gas fees are socialized and spread out throughout all the transactions, which is a huge benefit. But there are still people who want to transact on Ethereum's mainnet as well. And if we are going to onboard the next 1 billion. That's a number that Polygon that we use a lot, is the onboarding the next 1 billion users. And if we're going to do that, we want it to be on Ethereum, and the Ethereum base layer also needs to scale. I foresee a future where there are hundreds of layer 2 scaling solutions on Ethereum, and there will be hundreds of layer 3 scaling solutions that are built on top of Polygon and Optimism and Arbitrum. And right now, I think it's important to not just look at the present as the final product, especially in Web3, because as we continue to provide more and more technological advances for scaling and efficiency, we need to make sure that we have that infrastructure in place to actually onboard those next 1 billion users. And if we put 1 billion users on the blockchain right now and implemented sharding, it would still be a mess. So we need the combination of layer 1 scaling and layer 2 scaling, with maybe even a little of layer 3 scaling, to onboard those next 1 billion users. So what does it mean for Polygon? Nothing. We're still going to keep building really cool scaling tech to onboard that next 1 billion users. And if Ethereum can help in scalability by scaling out the base layer, we're obviously all for it.
Understood. That makes sense. So I have another question. On your website, I read about Polygon Avail, which is a blockchain that is laser focused on data availability, ordering and recording blockchain transactions, and making it possible to prove that block data is available without downloading the whole block. I was thinking, can Avail blockchain only support layer 2 blockchain, or layer 1 blockchain, or any application can also benefit from Polygon Avail? And I was also wondering, blockchain with any type of consensus are able to use Avail for scalability?
Yeah, so to my knowledge, this is only for blockchains. But yes, so that's why we don't call all of our projects that we're working on as layer 2s, because you've got Polygon proof of stake, which is kind of more of a commit chain, but like a souped up commit chain. Well, I won't go into that. You've got like Polygon proof of stake, which is a commit chain, and then you've got, which is not technically a layer 2, and then you've got Polygon Avail, which is more of a data availability blockchain, and it's not a layer 2 either. So that's why we like to call them scaling solutions. But with this, yeah, that is another thing that can be very difficult from an efficiency and scalability perspective when it comes to layer 2s and even layer 1s as well, is where do you store all of the data? Ethereum is slow and secure and expensive because all of the data is stored on Ethereum. But other blockchains can store that data elsewhere and use a proof to just prove that the data is there and available. And so, yeah, this project that we've been working on, Polygon Avail, is available to anyone. All of our projects that we create are open source and permissionless. That means, ZK Scroll could use it, Polygon Proof of Stake could use it, Arbitrum, Optimism, Avalanche, anyone could use this. And it's just another tool in the tool set. We talked about layer 1 scaling, layer 2, possibly layer 3 scaling, but there's also how do you scale those layer 2s further, and how do you scale those layer 3s further? And this is one of our solutions that we've been working on for that. I think it's, when you're working in this space, it's very important to look very far ahead into the future, and this is one of the ways we're doing that.
Got it. Thank you so much for answering my questions.
Yeah, thanks, Aisha. Fatty Bags, you're next.
Hey man, how you guys doing? I appreciate you bringing me up, Noah. Crypto, it's been very cool, Crypto Texan, to hear from you here. I am super, super bullish on what Polygon is doing, especially in the midst of socioeconomic turmoil like we're seeing and a bear market. Their BD team is absolutely beast mode. And what we're seeing is something that I've been screaming from the top of a soapbox for so long, and that is retail adoption. For those of you that don't know me in the audience, I am an artist for Reddit, but originally a DeFi guy. I've been around since Mt. Gox. Being part of the Reddit onboarding experience, as I've been calling it, has been really awesome. And for those of you that don't know, they utilize that on Polygon. What that did was bring millions of new users from a Web 2/retail standpoint into the Web 3 ecosystem. A massive, massive bullish play for Web 3. There was a couple things that came up during this time that I realized as this massive onboarding was going on. And the first was a question that I asked was, is Web3, is DeFi ready for so much retail adoption? And my answer right off the rip, from being in this space for a long time, was no. There's not enough solutions in place right now to make it easy for mom and pop to just come in, make a MetaMask, and understand what's going on. So that's something that I think is very important, and I see Polygon actively doing, is trying to make these connections between Web 2 and Web 3, be it Starbucks, I believe Mercedes is another one, and the list goes on. So creating that connection between Web 2 and Web 3 is very important. The other side of things is the people that are deep-rooted in DeFi, for example, myself and many other people on the stage here, to be able to educate individuals that come into this space. And through education, we then create retention, which is super bullish for the entire ecosystem itself. So I wanted to come up here. I'll keep it short. Is say thank you to everyone that's working on Polygon to really bring blockchain technology and Web3 to the masses and make it easily digestible for individuals. And I am very excited for the future. So thank you, Noah, for having me up here, bro.
Yeah, Fatty Bags, appreciate you making those comments. And you touched on something that I do kind of want to bring up, and that is like the user interface and the user experience of Web3 as it stands currently. And it's been a long road, right? Like I've had my ledger since I was 2018, and since it was 2018, and it's not the most like it's just not the most intuitive thing to use, right? And like if you start telling people, oh, you need to get a ledger and you've got to write down these words and you can't keep them in a certain place, like that's going to turn users off pretty quickly. But one of the things that I have noticed in this bear market that I'm most excited about is the improvements that I'm seeing on a user interface and user experience standpoint every day, right? And I think account abstraction is a very interesting topic that's being talked about in the Ethereum community specifically, but also you have a lot of wallets and that are creating these insanely sophisticated solutions to just improving the UI UX for users, for noobs, or just for grandma. And I used to tell people all the time, like, yeah, hey, look, we're not building this stuff for grandma and grandpa. We're not. And I would just write that off immediately. And I've started to talk to teams that have made me kind of start to think the other way. I used to say, eventually it'll be for everyone, but right now it's not. And I'm starting to see a lot of improvements and a lot of really cool teams working on a lot of cool stuff that is going to help. And I've said onboard the next 1 billion users, but it's going to help do that. So shout out to those teams like Zerion and Giddy for building out that really cool, innovative stuff from a UI UX standpoint.
Shout out Zapper. And Fatty Bags, thank you so much for coming up and making those comments. I think it's so important that people recognize, I mean, as cliche as it sounds, we're still so early, and mass adoption is going to happen when grandma and grandpa are interfacing with dApps and DeFi without recognizing that they're even doing it, right? We're the early adopters. We go through the 17 transactions it takes to stake LP tokens, but eventually we're going to get to a point where that's not going to be the case. And you harped on education. That's something that we harp on here at Whale Coin Talk. Mass mass adoption. In order for that to happen, we need global, widespread education. People need to understand the difference between DeFi and CeFi and Bitcoin and Ethereum and crypto and FTX and Binance and all the different nuts and bolts that is this ecosystem. And I think we're still early in that, but I do agree. Polygon is definitely making strides to make that happen. And it's clear as day. Just go look at the chart, right? Go look at the Satoshi value through the course of the bear market. Polygon's been crushing it, and NFA, but the proof is in the pudding. I'm going to pass the mic to. We have not a lot. We have several people that want to ask questions. I'm going to pass the mic to. Ground Zero, you were first, man, and then I'll get to you after Pocket.
All right. Thanks a lot, Noah. I enjoyed the presentation so far, but I just want to ask one direct, specific question. I'm on your website now, and I am seeing that you actually have 100 active validators, and it's 135 million unique addresses, and the scaling, the ratio, it's really wonderful. I wanted to ask you, how are you able to keep it at 100 active validators, but you're still able to process billions or millions of transactions every day? Because I already know how important these validators are, and I understand that you're running proof of stake blockchain. How are you able to keep it at 100 validators without breaking the sequence that this transaction goes through?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had a lot of trouble hearing and understanding that question.
So, Ground Zero, can you rephrase the question and keep it high level with respect to the validators?
All right. Okay. I'll try to rephrase it as much as I can. I'm seeing here on your website that you have 100 active validators. Why it doesn't take a lot? How are you able to keep it at 100 active validators? But what techniques are you using to stay at this 100 active validators? And is it that they are interchangeable, or do they are they the ones with the highest amount of the Polygon token?
Yeah, so I can't really talk too much in depth about that because I'm not 100% certain on the specifics or the mechanics. But I do know that a reason that I have heard for, I don't know if you're talking about the limit of the specific validators, but we do have bigger blocks and quicker block times, which allows us to process more transactions. And that's a lot easier to do on a proof of stake network like Polygon proof of stake is versus a proof of work network. And the reason that I've been told that we only have 100 validators currently and it's capped is because we want to maintain a consistent, we want to maintain consistency in that flow. And when we have 100 validators and we have a queue of individuals or organizations that want to run validators, it helps us maintain that number and maintain consistency in the validation and the block production. Not sure if that answers your question, but that's probably the best I can do to answer it.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so when I was running my research on bigger size, the block size for a blockchain transaction, at some point, if the blocks are, would I say, too big, it brings inconsistencies from what I was understanding. So, how are you guys able to make these bigger blocks without necessarily having these inconsistencies that could cause congestion on the network?
That's a good question, and I can only speculate as to why that, because I haven't necessarily done the research on my own. But I know that Polygon a while back did its own implementation of EIP 1559, which does have a burning mechanism for the gas fee. But on top of that, it also has to do with like a flexibility in the block size, right? So I think the goal of an EIP 1559 implementation is that the goal is you do have a minimum block size, but you also tried to make it to where the next block will be 50% full based on previous block sizes. Again, I'm not 100% certain here on the mechanics or how that works, or even if that type of implementation for EIP 1559 made its way into the Polygon implementation. But that would be the way that I would speculate as to how that consistency is managed, would be the expanding and contracting block sizes based on previous blocks due to the EIP 1559 implementation on Polygon.
All right, EIP 1559. Got it. I still have a few more questions, but I'll need to properly align my chain of thought so that I can ask them properly. I really want to thank you for answering my questions with this much detail. I wish you guys the best, and I hope Polygon continues to skyrocket forward. Over to you, Noah. Thanks very much, Noah.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and no, I do have to hop off here because I'm
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, no worries, guys. Sorry for everyone that didn't get to ask questions. We are a bit over, and I know Justin has a lot to do. So, Justin, I really appreciate you being with us today. It's been a great broadcast. We've learned a lot, and I think that Polygon has a bright future. The proof is in the pudding, as I mentioned earlier. I wish you all the best, man. And if you want to leave us with some closing statements, go for it
now. Closing statements. Yeah, I would say. Yeah, that's a great thing. I've never had to do both.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, man.
Yeah, come check out. If you want more information on Polygon, go to polygon.technology. Follow Polygon at 0x Polygon on Twitter, and follow 0x Polygon DeFi, which is our Twitter handle for DeFi specific news. Give me a follow at crypto_Texan. And yeah, if you have any questions, just shoot me a DM on Twitter. They're open. I respond. And yeah, I really appreciate you having me on. This has been a blast.
Yeah, certainly, Justin. And like he said, give him a follow, guys. He puts out some great content. Give all of us a follow. We'll follow back. It's been a great broadcast, and we have some great AMAs coming up next week, even tomorrow. Stay tuned for our aquarium episode, part 2 of AI implications for humanity, next Wednesday at 4 p.m. UTC.